that storm, that chaos, that fire? Have you ever laid awake at night asking, why me? I want you to truly hear me today, not just with your ears, but deep in your soul. You were never a mistake. You were never weak. You were never meant to break. God placed you in that battle because He knew something you didn't. He knew you had the strength to endure. And not just endure, but to triumph. And here you are, standing, breathing, stronger than before. You were sent into the life of a narcissist, not to be destroyed, but to be a lesson, to be a reflection, to be a force that shook their world. And let me tell you something, they may never admit it, they may never show it, but you made an impact, you made a difference. And most importantly, you made it out. Love is a force beyond words and gestures. It is action, sacrifice, patience, and an unshakable commitment to something bigger than yourself. When God placed you in the life of a narcissist, He knew exactly what He was doing. He sent you there as a vessel of love, a light in the darkness, a reminder of what true love looks like, not the self-serving, manipulative version they try to manufacture, but love in its purest, most genuine form. Narcissists have a way of distorting love. They redefine it to fit their own needs, to feed their ego, to maintain control. They twist love into something that serves them, something that validates their power, something that revolves around their wants, their desires, their comfort. But you were different. You didn't love with conditions, with expectations, with an agenda. You loved from your heart. You gave freely without keeping score. You loved even when it was inconvenient, when it was difficult, when it seemed like it wasn't being returned. And that, more than anything, confused them. Because in their world, love is transactional. It is something to be earned, something to be manipulated, something to be used. But your love was different. Your love was real. Your love didn't demand anything in return. Your love saw past their mask, the mask they wore so carefully, the walls they built to protect themselves. You saw them, the real them, not the version they showed the world, not the confident, charming persona they projected. You saw their insecurities, their fears, the deep wounds they tried so hard to cover. And instead of running, instead of judging, instead of playing into their illusion, you loved them anyway. And that terrified them. Because deep down, narcissists don't know what to do with real love. It is foreign to them, unsettling, even painful. It forces them to face the very things they've spent their entire lives avoiding. It shines a light on the emptiness within them, the void they've tried so hard to fill with control and validation. At first, they may have basked in the warmth of your affection, addicted to the way you uplifted them, the way you supported them, the way you poured into them. But over time, something changed. Because real love requires vulnerability. It requires honesty. It requires accountability. And those are things a narcissist cannot handle. So they rejected it. They pushed it away. They tried to convince themselves that your love was weak, that it was naive, that it was something to be taken for granted. But no matter how hard they tried, they could never fully erase the impact you had, because you showed them something they had never truly known before. You showed them the kind of love that doesn't break, that doesn't waver, that doesn't vanish when things get hard. And that love changed them, even if they'll never admit it. It made them question things they never questioned before. It made them see a version of themselves they weren't ready to face. It planted a seed, one that may not grow today or tomorrow or even years from now, but a seed that will always remain. Because real love leaves a mark. It lingers in the mind, in the soul, in the quiet moments when they are alone with their thoughts. They may try to convince themselves that they don't need it, that they don't miss it, that they don't care, but they do. Because once you have been loved purely, truly, selflessly, you can never forget it. And that is why you were there. That is why God placed you in their life, not to fix them, not to change them, not to make them into something they're not, but to show them what real love truly is. And in doing so, you fulfilled your purpose, even when they didn't appreciate it, even when they tried to make you feel like you were nothing. You were never nothing. You were the lesson they didn't know they needed. You were the reminder of something greater than themselves. You were the proof that love still exists, even in the most broken places. Control is everything to a narcissist. It is their lifeline, their safety net, the very thing that allows them to maintain the illusion they have so carefully crafted. They thrive on control because without it, they are forced to confront the chaos within themselves, the insecurity, the fear, the deep void they have spent their lives running from. Control gives them a sense of power, a sense of superiority, a sense that they are always one step ahead. But then you came along, and suddenly they faced something they had never encountered before. Someone they could not break, someone they could not bend, someone who refused to fit neatly into the box they had designed. At first, they believed they could mold you just as they had molded others before. They studied you, analyzed your strengths, pinpointed your vulnerabilities, and devised ways to manipulate your emotions. They used charm, validation, and affection to pull you in, to make you believe they were everything you had ever wanted. And for a while, you may have believed them. You may have given them the benefit of the doubt, trusting their words, their promises, their carefully curated version of love. But something inside you refused to surrender completely. Because unlike the others who had fallen into their web, you had something they didn't anticipate. You had resilience. You had a sense of self that could not be erased, a strength that could not be subdued, a light that could not be dimmed. No matter how much they tried to manipulate your reality, to gaslight you into doubting your own thoughts, to make you believe you were less than what you truly were, there was always a part of you that remained untouchable. And that terrified them, because control is their foundation. It is how they function, how they maintain their carefully constructed world. Without control, they are left exposed, vulnerable, unable to dictate the narrative. And when they realized they could not fully control you, that their usual tactics did not work the way they expected, panic set in. Some chose to escalate, push further, to see just how much they could take from you. But even then, even in your weakest moments, even in the times you questioned everything, you still remained the one thing they could not fully break. Because you had something they lacked. You had authenticity. You had truth. You had the ability to stand in the face of manipulation and say, no, this is not love. This is not respect. This is not who I am. And no amount of control could take that away from you. They may have tried to convince themselves otherwise. They may have told themselves that they won, that they were still the ones in charge. But deep down, in the quiet moments when no one else was watching, they knew the truth. You were different. You were not like the others. You were not someone who could be easily erased, replaced, or forgotten. Because when you walk away from a narcissist, when you break free from their control, you leave behind something they can never quite shake. The realization that they were never as powerful as they believed, and that is something they will never be able to control. They notice how others were naturally drawn to you, not because you sought attention, not because you manipulated emotions, but because people genuinely trusted you, believed in you, and felt safe around you. They observed how your empathy forged connections that were genuine, profound, and unbreakable. And no matter how much they tried, they could never fully imitate that. They could never quite reach that same depth of connection because their affection always came with conditions, expectations, and concealed motives. So they attempted to dismantle it. They tried to make you indifferent, to make you harden, to make you question the very essence of what made you who you are. They wanted you to second guess your own kindness, to view it as a weakness, to suppress it in the name of self-protection. But even when you were hurt, even when they attempted to strip everything away from you, even when you felt like you had nothing left to give, your empathy, and maybe it was wounded, maybe it became guarded, maybe it needed time to heal, but it was never a loss. And that is what they could not understand. That is what they could never take away from you. Because empathy is not something that can be stolen, nor is it something that can be obliterated by someone else's pain. It is something that strengthens in adversity, something that grows even more powerful when put to the test. They may have walked away, or perhaps you left first, but regardless of how the story concluded, one undeniable truth remains. You proved that empathy is not a weakness. You demonstrated that kindness is not a flaw. You showed that the ability to feel, to care, to love selflessly is not something to be ashamed of. It is what makes you unstoppable. Because the world needs more people like you. People who love without ulterior motives. People who heal others without expecting anything in return. People who stand against cruelty and refuse to become like the very thing that hurt them. That is real strength. That is true power. And that is something no narcissist can ever take away. A narcissist spends their entire existence running from themselves. They construct an image, a mask, a carefully curated version of who they want the world to see, and they wear it so convincingly that even they begin to believe it. Every action, every word, every manipulation is designed to uphold that image, to ensure that no one, including themselves, ever sees what truly lies beneath. But then you entered their life, and everything changed. You didn't just see the mask. They realized you saw beyond it. You saw them in a way that terrified them because they were never prepared to be truly seen. They were ready to be admired, to be worshiped, to be obeyed. They expected to be the center of your world, to control the narrative, to shape your reality. But what they were never prepared for was reflection, because that is what you became. A mirror, a reflection of who they truly were. Not the version they projected to the world, but the raw, unfiltered truth of their existence. Every insecurity they buried, every fear they ignored, every wound they pretended didn't exist, it all surfaced in your presence. At first, they may have found you intriguing, different, refreshing. There was something about your presence that made them feel alive, that made them feel seen, even if they didn't fully understand why. Your empathy, your kindness, your love was something unfamiliar, something they had been unknowingly missing. But the closer you got, the harder it became for them to hide. Because when you love someone with genuine intention, you begin to notice things. You begin to see the cracks in the mask, the contradictions in their stories, the fleeting moments when their confidence and charm slip just enough for the truth to show through. You start recognizing the patterns, the way they deflect blame, the way they refuse accountability, the way they avoid vulnerability. You start to feel the weight of their hidden wounds, the depth of the pain they refuse to acknowledge. And that is when everything shifts, because a narcissist does not want to be truly seen. They crave admiration, yes. They want to be adored, to be the center of attention, to be in control. But true visibility, true exposure, that is their greatest fear. And without even meaning to, you force them to face what they had spent a lifetime avoiding. They saw their own cruelty in the way you reacted to them. They saw their own emptiness in the way they kept taking from you, yet never felt satisfied. They saw their own brokenness in the way you tried to fix things, in the way you held on even when they pushed you away, in the way you kept believing in them long after they had stopped believing in themselves. And the weight of that realization was unbearable. So they tried to destroy the mirror. They could not accept the reflection staring back at them, so they lashed out. Maybe they told you that you were too sensitive, too emotional, too demanding. Maybe they twisted the narrative so thoroughly that you started doubting yourself. Maybe they withdrew, growing colder, punishing you for making them feel something they were not ready to face. Maybe they tried to hurt you, to break you, to make you question your own reality. Because if they could convince you that you were the problem, they wouldn't have to acknowledge the truth about themselves. But deep down, they knew. They knew you had seen them, the parts of themselves they had spent a lifetime avoiding. They knew you were not fooled by their charm, their grandiosity, their carefully crafted persona. They knew that no matter how hard they tried, they could never fully erase the way you made them feel, the way you made them think. And that is something they will never forget, even after you leave, even after they pretend to move on, even after they convince themselves that you were just another person who didn't understand them, who wasn't enough, who didn't deserve them. There will always be a part of them that remembers. Because once you have been truly seen, you can never go back to being blind. They may find someone else, someone who doesn't reflect them the way you did, someone who plays along, who believes the illusion, who doesn't ask the difficult questions. But even then, the reflection remains, because it was never just about you.